Are you in one of those jobs and you look in the mirror sometimes and just think, why did I get this job? How did I manage to do this? And you struggle with that word imposter syndrome. Well, that's something that lives with lots of us. I've suffered it myself. And today I've got over here Melanie Coeshott, who is an expert coach on dealing with all those kind of little stumbling blocks that we have with our careers, including imposter syndrome. We're going to talk about her 4C framework today, how she helps people get over some of those worrying beliefs, and how you can then go on to achieve really great career outcomes. Hello, Melanie. How are you today?
Good morning, Chris. I am great today. Thank you very much for asking, and thanks for inviting me along here.
Yeah, it's kind of our little Zoom virtual tennis thing, and Wimbledon's coming up, so I thought I'd put my centre court background up again today. And we're just going to pass a few questions over the net. That's like a virtual tennis match. I'm going to fire the questions, and it's up to you to come up with the answers, Melanie. So are we all good to go?
We are good to go.
All right. So, Melanie, I talked about imposter syndrome as we started, and it's something that you perhaps get to that new job and you've got those board papers coming in, you've got to make those decisions, and you suddenly think, how can I do this? Surely somebody's going to find out, and you have that imposter syndrome. How have you delivered that to your own mindset, Melanie, of overcoming imposter syndrome?
So I experience imposter syndrome a lot. It's something that affects me, something that I experience during different parts of my work, my social life, other things as well. And I'm not saying that I overcome it, but I've certainly learnt ways to manage it, because if not, it is debilitating, and it can hold us back from realizing our true potential. So the way that I see it is I have my imposter in the back, and actually I've named her. Her name is Izzy. And Izzy is a backseat driver. So I'm the driver of my life. She's always in the backseat. And sometimes she's asleep, which is great. I can just get on with stuff. And sometimes she's looking out the window, and that's fine. I can cope with that as well. But sometimes she's yelling at me, and she's telling me that I'm not good enough and that I'm going to get found out. And, how did you get to this? You don't deserve this. You've just been lucky. And it's really distracting. And the way that I've learned to deal with it is not to ignore it, a bit like a toddler or whatever. Sometimes if you ignore them, they shout even louder to get your attention. But just to learn how to accept that Izzy is on my journey. She's in my car with me, and actually about turning down the volume. And actually, I appreciate she's in the back, because sometimes I know that what she's saying is keeping me safe. She's there for a reason, and it keeps me on my toes a little bit as well. So it's okay. I know she's in the back. I know what she's representing. I'm okay with that. And I just turn down the volume a little bit so that I can hear the other voices in my head, the ones that are encouraging, the ones that are telling me that I am in the right place, that I deserve to be here, and that I've got this.
Okay. So you're now talking about this with your clients that you're helping in this career coaching aspect that you've got. Do you talk about Izzy with them in terms of her having a personality when you're sharing imposter syndrome thoughts with them?
Yep, certainly. I like to share some of my own experiences as well. But yeah, this is one of the techniques that I use. And maybe it's not Izzy for them. Maybe it's something else. So I've got a client that's got a parrot on her shoulder. I've got a client that's got just an invisible voice that he hears echoing around. So it's not always a backseat driver called Izzy, but people like the fact that actually, if you kind of name it and tame it, there's a way of dealing with it rather than just feeling like there's something they can't deal with there.
Yeah, I have that first sort of part of the morning where the alarm goes off, the snooze goes off, and the voice says, oh, go on, just roll over and have another 5 minutes. And I say to myself, no, I am going to be in control of the decisions that are going to happen today. And I'm going to be the one that slays that voice and says, go on, just have a little bit, 5 minutes. And I think if you can win that first battle of the day, it helps you then create an awful lot of success from that. But if you give that permission for that first voice, the first trigger, the first instruction, goodness me, from there, you've got a deck of cards that will completely perhaps fall inwards. I know you've got something called the 4C framework that is unique to you, that you really share with your clients to enable them to be successful. Can we just dive into that for a few minutes in terms of what that looks like?
Yeah.
I think the first word, and one of the really nice words there, I think is clarity as part of your 4Cs. What does that mean, and how do you share that?
So clarity is around understanding where you are going or what you stand for. So all of the words that I use, and they are clarity, credibility, courage, and consistency. I'm just reading them out because I like them in the right order rather than just thinking about them like that. But clarity is about understanding, you know, where you're going or what you stand for. It's about understanding what that end point looks like. So from Stephen Covey's language, begin with the end in mind. And it's about being clear in your own mind so that you've got that focus and direction. But it's about being clear so that it reflects out for other people as well. So if you're looking at your personal brand, other people know what you stand for as well.
And how long have you found people stay in a job because they either haven't got clarity or that they know that they've got clarity, but they're not willing to take the jump of risk because it's more comfortable to stay where they are than being an uncomfortable person in an uncomfortable place?
I think a lot of people stay in far too long. I think initially they don't know that there is a problem, or they might realize that something's not quite right, but they think they need to kind of push on through or stay around or I'll get over this or whatever. And so I think people often stay far too long in a position that isn't good for them, and it isn't good for them in the long term, but it certainly isn't good for them in the short term as well. And actually, this is one of the biggest reasons why people come to me, is to get that clarity of where they need to go next, what they should be doing next.
Okay. And I'm going to perhaps go out of your sequence, but that seems to resonate with a second C in the journey of courage, of actually saying, come on, let's just, what's the worst that can happen? You could always go back to the job or be re-employed or take another, you know, they might have you back, but having the courage to follow through on your conviction. So that's part of your framework as well, isn't it? Courage. Where do you bring that in?
So that actually comes in at all stages. And I know I said I read them in order, but yeah, to your point, that can come right at the beginning. So sometimes people contact me and they're like, I've been following your posts, I've been meaning to get in touch with you. And actually even reaching out to me is a big step of courage, because it's taking them from denial to going, actually, I want to do something about this. And for some people, that initial leap is huge.
Yeah.
Now, beyond that, further on down, it's about actually doing something about it. So getting that clarity, yeah, that's great. And I have a lot of initial discussions with people and something that I call the career compass, which gives them that clarity. How many of them then actually take action on it afterwards? A lot of them take, you know, some research actions or whatever, but the ones that really impress me are the ones that take that leap and then, you know, move on to the next part of their career, or the next chapter, as I like to call it. And that does take courage.
But even with courage, of course, that imposter syndrome voice comes up again and says, no, Melanie, don't be silly. There's no way that you could go and take that job or that advert. Who do you think you are? So for me, I've got two other words. Commitment creates certainty, on the basis that once you have the courage, just go ahead and apply yourself to that mission. A third one you talk about was credibility. So where does that fit into the framework, and why is that important?
So credibility comes from lots of different parts. It can come from the experience that we've got. If we are, you know, looking back at our career and saying, well, have I managed people, or have I had experience in this, or do I have any qualifications or whatever? But yeah, sometimes it's about those harder credentials, those qualifications or those certifications or courses that we've been on. But credibility can also come from feedback, testimonials. So I guess validation from other people, as well as us looking in the mirror and being aware about who we are and how good we are, what we've achieved, what we're capable of. And so all of that can come together and form part of our credibility.
Okay. And the final four C's framework, the fourth C in the framework, is then consistency. So making sure, I guess, that we actually follow through. Is that what that means to you as part of the career coaching service that you do, or is it something else?
Yeah, so following through on actions is very, very important. And that consistency, accountability is really key in terms of how I can help my clients and help them stay true to their goal and their focus. a few other things with consistency. So it's consistently showing up. So if you said you're going to do something, so, you know, if you said you're going to go out for a run twice a week, it's making sure you go out for a run twice a week. Or if you say you're going to post on social media twice a week, post on social media twice a week. So putting habits in place, putting routines, habits, processes, whatever you like to call them, that will enable you to show up consistently. The other thing with consistency is that consistency of message. And again, it ties back to some of the other pieces as well. But if you are standing for, you know, a particular message, being consistent about the words that you use or the message that you're putting across, so that it really etches it in people's minds what you stand for as well.
No, I really get that. And it goes back to that Olympic story of will it make the boat go faster? And having a consistent purpose, linking to your clarity. So you know where you need to get to. And then every question is, does this consistently get me to that that promotion or the bonus or this leap out of this particular team and into the next team? So applying all those little decisions with consistency linked to clarity, I get your framework completely. I can see how all of them link together beautifully. And in sales, having that accountability, or even just as a coach, to be consistently coming to a framework and a meeting to say, have you done what we agreed that you said you would? Yes, no. And having a consistent accountability partner, that's important as well, Melanie. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I have an accountability partner myself through my coach, which is, you know, definitely something that keeps me on my toes and keeps me, I guess, honest with myself, as well as, you know, focused on the goals that I've committed to.
So even the coach as a coach?
Absolutely.
I completely agree. Agree. So what about this sort of male-female divide in terms of dealing with imposter syndrome, having the willingness to talk about it? I know that lots of my male friends take a while. You ask them the question, how are you? And it's kind of, yeah, I'm fine, thanks. You have to dig a little bit deeper and scratch the surface before you really find out some of the worries or anxieties or stresses that they're not willing to share. Is this something that you find congruent with your coaching clientele, in that female-male relationships are harder to unpick?
Harder to unpick. I think once we've got that relationship and rapport established, I think they're just as willing to share as the women. I think in terms of showing up in the first place, there's probably a lot more women. So in terms of my coaching, it's probably about 50-50 male and female. We talk about things such as imposter syndrome and confidence. That frequently comes up across the board in one-to-one coaching, male and female. In terms of the workshops, it's predominantly females. So I would say 95% females that come along. We do have males that come along. They actually get a lot out of it. But I think there's a few barriers. There's, first of all, admitting that actually this is something that relates to me. There's, do I actually want to go and talk about it in public? So there's that barrier. And then also when they come to the workshops, they probably see a lot of other women, and it's about talking and, you know, sharing things. And I believe that's a barrier for some men as well. So I'm actually trying to investigate this at the moment with some of the males that have attended my workshops. And I know that they've all found the tips and the tools and the techniques really useful, as well as learning that actually I'm not alone. There are other people that experience some of these challenges as well. But I think we're a way off more men, you know, willingly putting their hand up and willingly coming along and talking about these things. Now, the great news is there's multiple different ways of dealing with this, as well as running workshops and as well as one-to-one coaching. All of my essential skills workshops are also available on an online course version. So you don't actually have to see or talk to anybody. Nobody needs to know you're doing it. And you can still benefit from all the same advice, tools and techniques as well.
And do you think there are any stereotypical norms that play on the minds of females more than men, that they have to juggle the traditional sort of stereotypical expectations that they have to be lots of different people to their children, to their husbands, to their career, that puts them into burnout risk in terms of really searching to try to keep all the little monsters in their boxes? You batter that one, you batter that one, and then another one pops up somewhere. How much do you find that to be true with your clientele?
Yeah, that's certainly a big challenge. One of the workshops that I run is on overwhelm, and we frequently hear that because people are juggling different roles and responsibilities that come with, I guess, different hats that we're wearing. So, you know, the parent hat or the manager hat or the, you know, direct report hat or the board member hat, and we've all got all these different things that we're trying to achieve, and it can be extremely challenging. Now sometimes that can work in our favor because actually we don't have the time to worry about it and we just get on with it, but sometimes that can lead to burnout, and I think we've seen lots and lots of cases of that in the last few years. And it's great in a way that people can now talk about these things, and not just have it labeled as some, you know, some weird and wonderful breakdown or whatever, but actually, you know, this is something that we're all at risk to, and, you know, I'm at risk as much as anybody else is.
And the word guilt comes into that. What about the time when you unfortunately have that discussion with somebody and said, I'm really sorry, Melanie, but this isn't working out, and here's an agreement in front of you that we'd like you to sign and consider? Do you find that actually is a bit of an epiphany for people to take the courageous break and decision and the leap of faith that they've never been willing to challenge before?
I think sometimes it can be, yeah, an immense relief, and it often, although the initial shock is often very hard to stomach, the relief and the I guess the kick to help them go and do something else. And sometimes we feel that we are, I guess, trapped, constrained in a certain situation, whether it's a work situation or it could be a relationship or something else, and actually we don't have the courage that would be useful for us. And actually when that choice is taken away from us and somebody else makes it, whether that's an employer or anyone else, then actually we're in that position where we can then explore other options.
I certainly took the decision for myself to be self-employed when somebody said my face doesn't quite fit with the personality of my report manager. I don't know how you were until Melanie. What brought you to the coaching journey?
So for me, I left of my own accord. I decided that actually I enjoyed the people aspects of my roles much more than the numbers one. So I was an accountant for 22 years. And actually moving out of that corporate life and into running my own business, managing my own time, working with the people that I want to work with, and helping as many people as I could was really appealing. So for me, I actually felt compelled to do my thing, to set up Blue Diamond. But I know for a lot of people, they don't necessarily feel that compulsion quite as much. They want to do something else, and, you know, it feels safer and more comfortable to stay where they are. And sometimes that's the right thing, and sometimes I can help them become not less comfortable, but deal with the situation that they're in and actually really excel in that situation. And sometimes actually the right thing for them is to leave and start anew somewhere else.
And in those 22 years, how many times did Imposter Izzy say to you, you're not an accountant, Melanie, please, can you get out of this? When do you think in that 22-year journey, you should have perhaps left that and made a courageous decision to move from it?
So certainly in the last 3 or 4 years that I was there, I had resigned myself to the fact that I was a good enough accountant. So, you know, I knew I wasn't the best technical accountant, and nor did I want to be. I was more a people manager with financial responsibilities. And actually I enjoyed that. I enjoyed helping people in the business, helping my team, developing those. But it got to a point where I thought, actually, do I want to be doing this for the next 20 or 25 years, you know, of my working life? And actually, no, I didn't. So, but yeah, imposter syndrome definitely was a big thing for me. Every time my boss used to call me unexpectedly. So when I didn't have a meeting set up, I thought, she's found me out.
And having somebody that's congruent to where you find yourself in your career ladder is a great way to work with a coach, on the basis that you can say, do you know what, I was where you were and it took me 3 to 4 years to make the decision. Please don't wait, just take the leap and take the courageous, sort of consistent view that I wish I had done. And you can tell that story with complete authenticity, and then they can see the outcome, which is where you sit now, happy, purposeful, and certainly seem to enjoy the outcomes that you have with your clients. With that in mind, can you tell us a lovely story about a client that you're working with or have worked with, where they came to you with a whole bundle full of problems and you just took them out one by one and you left them with a lovely garden full of rosy blooms?
Yeah. So one of the clients I'm working with at the moment is a senior manager in an accountancy firm. And I've actually worked with this person in a prior life. So I was a client of his, or a corporate client. So we were on different teams, but working together for a period of time. And he actually came to me because he knew me and knew what I was doing and knew that I could help him. And his situation is he has been approached by another accountancy firm to become a partner in that firm, which is amazing. And he's a great person and I know he'll really thrive in that. And yet, even though he's great and I can see it and everyone else around him can see it and this new firm can see it, he's feeling like a complete imposter. He's feeling like he's going to get found out. Great, what if I go to that organization and they realize that I'm not actually very good? And so he's got all kinds of pressures that he's putting on himself, and yet he's not happy anymore where he is. So I'm helping him unpack that. I'm helping him deal with actually, stepping into his own courage and understanding the value that he brings now and the value that he can bring in the future. And we're also going through things like how he has that discussion with his firm, how he actually gives his notice, which he's not yet given. So there are lots of pieces of this and they're all related, but it's helping him understand his own value so that he can step forward into his next chapter with complete understanding of the value that he brings.
Okay, well, final few sort of forays of points here. Looking back over the last 18 months of lockdown, how do you think that has served people's decision-making framework around their future and particularly their career choices?
So I think that this has happened in different stages. So I think in the first few months of lockdown, partly when people were initially working from home or furloughed or made redundant, even in those first 3 to 6 months, there were a lot of people challenging the way they were looking at things. Why do I need to do this? Why should I put up with this? I don't want to be commuting anymore, etc. But I think some of those decisions were also parked. And I think, every year there are cycles where people kind of leave their job and move on to pastures new or go and set up their own business. And I feel that some of those decisions were also delayed. People put those on hold with a view to, I don't know what's going to happen in the world and I'm going to wait and see. And so I think now in the last few months, there's a lot more people that are they've been sat there twiddling their thumbs or kind of biding their time for a while, probably a year longer than they wanted to. And they've enjoyed not having to commute or whatever. But now they're thinking, actually, I don't want to go back into the workplace or this is my opportunity. I'm now ready to take action. So actually, this is a great time if you are thinking about doing something different, even if it's just that little inkling at the back of your head and you want to talk to somebody about it with, no strings, no obligation, just somebody to listen and be completely objective, you can get in touch with me for a free career discussion.
All right, and how do they do that? Anybody listening to the podcast today, if this isn't on the video, what's the links or what's your LinkedIn's website, that kind of thing? What's the process, Melanie?
Yep. So you can contact me on LinkedIn. I'm Melanie Coeshott. You will see little blue diamonds everywhere around my profile. So just contact me, get in touch via Messenger or connect with me. You can also go to my website, bluediamondcoach.com. And there are buttons all over my website inviting you to book into your career discussion.
Awesome. And if you've not followed Melanie before on LinkedIn, she tells you some great stories. I love the way that she writes her posts and she makes you feel as though the presence. There was one last week about her talking about the decision to chuck yourself out of a plane. And I was right there on the edge of the seat going, no. Oh, she's done it. Oh, she jumped out and the parachute opened and everything was fine. But she's a really good orator through the written medium of words. Melanie, it's been lovely changing net points over the virtual platform today. Anything else you wanted to share with anybody today, just talking about the next 6 months of 2021 in terms of what we've got in store for us?
I would just say, nobody knows what's going to happen. Nobody knows where the economy is going to land and which businesses are going to get you back in the office and not. But if you are even considering doing something different or considering your options, get in touch for a talk, because you never know where that could lead.
I love that. Somebody said to me, work despite your environment, not because of your environment. With that, Melanie, it's been a lovely time to catch up with each other. I know I'll be seeing each other on LinkedIn in the future. Good luck with your workshops. You do a great service to your clients. And anybody who's just deciding, oh, I just don't know, take the leap of faith, or just go and hold your hand with Melanie and she'll take you across the threshold together. Thank you.